So Donald Trump won the New Hampshire primary, and everyone's trying to wrap their minds around it. Both sides are trying to explain it, and I see a whole lot of takes out there about the situation. I want to start right out of the gate by saying that I am never going to rule out Donald Trump. I am never going to count him out. I still am never going to let him get a pass when he talks about democracy and talks about how he would like to be dictator for a day. I don't care if he follows it up later with a lighthearted joke or his followers think he's joking. I take democracy very seriously. And when he says things like, I want to be dictator for a day, but I promise I'll give it back, I don't trust him as far as I could throw him. And when he says things like, just go ahead and give me this race, I've already won it, just go ahead and call it for me now, I don't care if he follows that up with a lighthearted joke. I don't care if he tries to say, well, the media is going to spin this. No, I feel like he's testing the waters when he says things like that. And I take democracy very seriously, so I'm never going to let him off the hook. Now, Republicans are saying, he won, and the liberals won't give him credit. The liberals are saying that it's not that big of a deal. Well, let's just put it into context here, okay? In New Hampshire, independents outnumber Democrats and Republicans. Registered independents. There's more registered independents than there are registered Democrats and Republicans. Donald Trump won last night, but at the end of the day, he's going to need independents to win in the general election. Donald Trump cannot win the general election without independents. And if there was more independents voting, and they were voting against Donald Trump, if they showed up to vote against Donald Trump last night, they're more than likely going to show up to vote for him or vote against him again in November. That would just make sense, because unless something drastic happens that makes them change their mind or just causes them to set election day out, if they cared enough, an independent cared enough to go to the poll and vote against him now, they're definitely going to vote against him later. But the most ridiculous thing about this whole thing to me is that Donald Trump can't even win with any dignity. He can't even take a win without whining and complaining. And you got Marjorie Taylor Greene out there saying, well, those are fake numbers. Nikki Haley doesn't have that kind of support. And that's what disturbs me most about all of this, is the fact that even when they win, if one person disagreed with them, they can't imagine that was possible. They're so arrogant, they can't imagine that somebody disagreed with us on something. There was actually some people that showed up that didn't like what we had to say. Back in 2016, when he won the election, he still tried to say the popular vote was rigged against him. He's never been able to win with grace. He sure as hell couldn't lose with any grace. And Marjorie Taylor Greene telling everybody, yeah, those are fake numbers. Nikki Haley don't have that kind of support. So guess what's going to happen as we go forward? Nikki Haley's staying in the race at the moment. She's saying she's still going to hang in there, and I think she should, because you never know what's going to happen going forward with Donald Trump and all the things going on in his life. So I think that she should definitely hang in there. Now, imagine if she wins a state. Let's say that somewhere or another, Nikki Haley pulls out a state. It's going to be fake in Donald Trump's world. The Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the MAGAs of the world will yell, that was fake, that was rigged. If Nikki Haley starts to gain momentum or any ground at all, they're going to say it was rigged. And when he loses in November, they're going to say it again. And Republicans are going to go back to this moment and go, well, wait a minute, man, he was kicking ass back at the start of the year. He won Iowa, he won New Hampshire. And then we're going to say, yeah, and remember when we told you to put it into context? Remember when we told you that he needed independence? He didn't win them over. At the end of the day, when Election Day rolls around in November, there's going to be a lot of women show up to vote that day. There's going to be a lot of independents and undecided people show up to vote that day. And Donald Trump has definitely done nothing to win over the women. And he's not doing anything to win over independents. And so we're probably headed for another, this thing was stolen, blah, 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 blah. It's never going to stop with Donald Trump. And any MAGA candidate, they're never going to accept defeat. And they're not even going to take a win without saying, I can't believe one voter disagreed with me. And it's something that has just infected our entire country. It's something that infects the way people live their everyday lives. This is going to rub off on the entire country, and you're going to have people out there in every corner of the world going, but just give it to me, it's mine. Because whether you believe it or not, people do follow after these kind of politicians. They do latch on to that way of thinking, and they do try to emulate what they see. And when Donald Trump comes along and he takes accountability and responsibility off the table, and when he comes along and says the whole system is rigged against him, how do you think the guy down at the factory is going to take it when he gets the pink slip and booted out the door? You think he's just going to go, or he's going to sit there and go, oh, this was rigged against me? Which actually that game was rigged against him. And he was voting for the guy who helped rig it against him, but we'll never be able to get through to them either.